Good morning, everyone. We'd like to call this special meeting of the Nicholas County Board of Education to order on October 10th, 2024. And at this time, if you'll please stand with us for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Please join the board with the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this special meeting today is for discussion with possible action based upon updated reports from the Nicholas County Health Department and the State Fire Marshal's Office relating to the Cherry River construction site. And at this time, I'll let Mr. Bean present what he has.
Well, over the last couple weeks or so, we've run into some issues that kind of kept growing in their severity, and therefore I felt like we had a need to have a meeting with the board and discuss some of these items. It started off, the first wind I got of this a couple weeks ago is we started getting some leaks in the Cherry River site, and we had ceiling tiles falling down in the library and different places throughout the building. And you know, it's an older building, those things do happen, and so we tried to address those the best we could. But then the leaks seemed to become more frequent and more spread out through our building to where it spread to our kitchen. So Sherry Mao, who's our food service director, she came to me and she talked to me about the kitchen. She said, we got leaks in the kitchen and it's really hard for us, the cooks, to clean the dishes and prepare the food without water splattering on the food or in the service area or whatever. So then it even went further than that. Now we seem to have some water coming into, some leaks coming into some of our light fixtures, which creates an electrical concern that we have. So those things all happened. So we had Dakota Taylor, who's our health department person. He was inspecting our kitchen for us, and then we contacted Bobby Palmer, who's from State Fire Marshal's Office, to take a look at some of the fire marshal concerns or fire hazard concerns we had. And then John McGinnis with the Homeland Security reached out to him. He had shared with us in the past some concerns about certain aspects of the building. So all these things kind of melded together over the last couple of weeks. And we felt like that, you know, when you have water getting into your kitchen and you're trying to serve food to kids, then you got the concern about kids getting sick because maybe you're using water that's not the cleanest, or using pots and pans that are maybe getting dirty, or you got water splattering up on your food, your service areas. So that was concerned. But then I also got word, and I'll let Bobby go through his part here in a second. One of the things that really concerned me that I just heard about a couple days ago was that our fire alarms, when they go off and lock throughout the building, a lot of people can't even hear the fire alarms going on. That's a real concern, a major concern. So we have that, and then we have a corridor issue that I'm going to let John talk about, maybe with Homeland Security. So it was just a whole myriad of things that I felt like that we just couldn't kick the can down the road and just worry about it later. We need to address these things. Our number one priority is supposed to be the health and safety of the students. Whether it upsets the public, or whether it upsets the board, or whoever it upsets, But we have to look out for the kids. If we don't, we're not doing our jobs. And so on Tuesday evening, I got about 3:40, got the last report. I think I tried to talk to Dakota on the phone, and we had to decide by 4 o'clock whether to have a special meeting or not, because you have to give the public 48 hours, or 2 days. And so we did that, and we got the word out that we was going to have a special meeting. And of course, ever since then, the phones have been lighting up, and the emails have been lighting up, and what's this all about? And that's why we're here. We're here to hear the reports from these gentlemen And then the board will have to take all that into consideration and make a decision on where we go forward from here. So at this time, I would like to ask Dakota Taylor from the health department to give a report on what he has found as far as our kitchen and different areas are concerned.
I printed you off a copy here.
On 10/1, October 1st, I done an inspection of the school for both the physical inspection of the building and the kitchen itself. The kitchen, as you mentioned earlier, we have several leaks throughout the kitchen. Roof, it's directly above the dishwasher, actually coming down into the dishwasher. Basically, there for like a week, we were washing our kids' trays. It looked like chocolate milk. It's red brown water, almost like mud coming down into our dishwasher. All above our clean dish areas. We have leaks around our light fixtures, which is an electrical issue. We had a long period of drought where, we were just lucky. We had all those hurricane rains a couple weeks ago. Now this is an issue. It's kind of got to the point where it's an extreme danger for contamination of food. When I was there last week, we did not have any actual visual leaks directly above our food prep area or the pot holding areas when I was there. But when you look at the ceiling, you can actually see some spots starting. So it's only a matter of time until that happens. I expect that to happen next week. Because when you have a roof leak, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse until we get it fixed. If I go down there next week after the rains and we have leak over the hot holding area, any food or beverage area, which I highly suspect there'll be, I'm going to have to close the kitchen on the spot. And then there we're going to be with the school with no way to serve the kids' food. So it's gotten to the point where, we have to do something. Because we're at really, really high risk of getting someone sick. I've taken several pictures. I know Sherry took several pictures. The dishwasher was unbelievable last week. It was something just terrific. Well, we were actually washing our kids' trays in, and we're serving food on that tray to the kids. Basically, ceiling water is what we were washing our trays in. Of course, this school was built in the 70s. I'm not sure the exact year. It's not really my area, but I would think there would probably maybe be some asbestos issues there as well. Maybe be a concern. That's coming down through the roof, through the ceiling, plumbing, all that, and coming down right into. Like I said, we were washing our dishes in that. So in the dishwasher. When we found that out, of course, we immediately shut the dishwasher down. And I instructed the kitchen staff to just go to 3-compartment sink only and kind of hand wash everything. But that's a major deal too. We can run like that temporarily, but we cannot run like that long term. It's almost impossible to run a large-scale school hand washing dishes because we run into issues with. It's very difficult to keep up with USDA requirements. It's really hard on our kitchen staff. You're so limited on menu options. You can't serve a 5-year-old a plate of spaghetti on a little styrofoam tray. It just runs into several different problems, and we don't have and you're permitted to have an operational dishwasher as well. Which I brought up, the leaks in the light fixtures is a huge concern. I've seen, in our hallways, we have leaks around our speaker systems, several tiles down in our hallways, some type of electrical cords coming right down through our ceiling, which I have pictures of. Another issue we have is the cafeteria. The walls, the air ventilation systems in the cafeteria is just absolutely filthy. Of course, this is a room all of our kids are having gym in and eating in. Heavy dust and debris is an understatement. Our air vents, our walls around the cafeteria just are absolutely filthy, just horrifically nasty. And of course, our kids are in there exercising, breathing all that in, staff members as well. So that's definitely a concern as well. But the kitchen is our main concern. It's gotten to the point where we must do something. We're running a number of days away from having school with no way to serve food to the kids. So, if you have any questions on it.
I have one question. You're talking about the dust, a lot of dirt. Would that be a direct relationship with the construction site itself? Is that what's causing this?
I can't say that for sure, but I would suspect that. I was down there, all of our vents, our air ventilation system goes through the cafeteria, and our vents have just blown really, really nasty heavy debris all over our walls. It's pretty significant to say the least.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, Coach, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Palmer from the State Fire Marshal.
Good morning. So, to give some backstory on the State Fire Marshal's office involvement in the situation, on October the 8th, 2 days ago, our office received a complaint in regard to leaking ceiling tiles into the electrical system at Cherry River Elementary. Yesterday on 10/9, we sent one of our inspectors for the area there to investigate that complaint. That complaint was validated by that inspector. He witnessed water pooling inside of the lenses of light fixtures. And without being able to go into the full electrical system, we have no way to validate whether or not water has gotten into any other electrical components. But that is a concern. If water is able to come in and get into those light fixtures, it can potentially get other places as well, especially based on the reports that others have given on the magnitude of what it looks like the leaks are. So there's a few other concerns, though, that came about during that inspection. So there is a corridor in this school that, because of construction, only has one exit. It's from the furthest classroom to the nearest exit is 172 feet when it was measured. 172 feet to a single exit. There's no other way out of that corridor. The windows to the classrooms do not open, and if something occurs on the exit into that corridor, there's no escape for anyone in that corridor potentially. Now, we're looking from the aspect of fire, but there are other things that you have to look at in that same concern with having a single means of escape and not a secondary exit. During that inspection yesterday, based on conversation, the fire marshal that was doing that inspection requested that a fire drill be performed while he was there. That fire drill was performed. When you're inside of the classrooms at the end of that corridor, and you're having just general conversation and the fire alarm activates with the doors closed, you could barely hear the fire alarm activate. Now, in that fire marshal's opinion, had normal classroom activities being going on, something playing on the television, or something interactive that is a little noisy in the classroom, you potentially would not have heard that fire alarm going off at all. So when you compound the potential electrical issue with the water, you compound a single exit with a dead-end corridor, you compound that with not being able to hear the fire alarm potentially, all of those things are just a disaster waiting to happen. And that's our biggest concern, is mitigating that issue. We've got to be sure that, that there has to be more than one way out. We have to have a secondary means of escape. Now, I don't know how that can be accomplished. If we're willing to, work with the board to come up with a plan to mitigate that hazard, but I don't know what that plan might be. I don't know what that looks like. But there are definitely life safety concerns that we have there, and that's really our take on it right now at this point. Are there any questions for me?
So when we started this construction project, and I was just, it was right at the beginning of my term, we were informed by the superintendent then that the fire marshal had approved all the different scenarios that were taking place during construction.
So my understanding in talking to the fire marshal for the area is there was a plan in place last year. That plan, in coordination with the construction company, that mitigation plan that was in place last year was followed last year. But from in that conversation, it was also determined that the situation we're in today was not part of that mitigation plan.
Okay. Because we asked some of these questions, that's why I'm asking.
Sure.
Anybody have a question for the state fire marshal?
Thank you, Robbie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'd like to hear from John McGinnis with Homeland Security.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of the Nicholas County Emergency Management and Homeland Security Office, our main goal for Nicholas County is safety. And at this point, we're talking about students, staff, service personnel, and administration. Okay? I've listened to the health department, I've listened to the fire marshal's office, and we have some major concerns here. And it all boils down to life safety. I've seen both sides of it, making decisions from the emergency management side. I've also worked for the school system for 17 years in Fayette County. I was part of the school safety team for the whole county. We make a lot of decisions that the public do not like, okay? But at the bottom line is, we have to take care of our students and our staff and our administrators, right? It's hard enough time to keep schools on track without construction. And now this is another hurdle that we have to face to make decisions what's best for Nicholas County. Okay? I fully support the health department. I fully support the fire marshal's office. And I'm recommending to the board that we need to do something very soon before something happens. When you're talking about water getting electrical systems, that is a major fire hazard. Supervisor Palmer just said the students can't hear the fire alarm on a normal activity day in the classroom. Priority. Okay. I know you all will make the best decision for the students at Cherry River. I fully support your all's decision on that. But we have to do something to protect these students and the administrators and the staff at this school. I appreciate everything you all are doing, and I appreciate everything in this room. But let's make safety this priority on this decision. And I have any questions, I'll feel free to answer them.
John, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
From your standpoint, and you may or may not be able to answer this because you're not investigated, but with the construction going on at the same time, God forbid how do you feel about the access to the school as well as, God forbid, we have a school shooting or whatever, based on what the fire marshal was saying, that long corridor and stuff? Do you have any opinions on the safety from that aspect?
Yes, I mean, you know, we have two different ways to get into school. However, once you turn off the bridge, you know, you're pretty much stuck over there. However, we have had several different meetings here. We meet twice a month with our school safety. There's representatives from all the law enforcement agencies, myself including. You know, can I sit here and answer everything about the safety on school shootings? No, because every one of them is different. But just like Mr. Palmer said, we've got 4 classrooms down one corridor. There's one way in, one way out. If something would happen at the end of that corridor, those kids and teachers are stuck. There's no way to get to them, no matter what the situation is. So we have to take that into consideration as too. But, you know, I've said this in our last safety meeting here, you know, I'm very confident with the school safety plans that are in place and what we're doing moving forward to make it even better for every school. And that's going to take time and money. We all know that. But we are moving forward to make this better for our students. And I appreciate all the support that we've had for that. Chris back there stays in contact with all of us, very knowledgeable, and we talk, not even here, but on our meetings away from Nicholas County, you know, we're always planning and talking about what we can do to make our schools better and safer. So that's one of those things that, you know, I wish I had an answer for totally, but I don't. You know, that extra corridor right there, even if we had, you know, like you said, our windows won't even open. You know, if a fire happens in there, you have to look. Richwood Fire Department's close. It's a volunteer department. They might get there in 3 minutes. It might get 8 minutes. Okay? So you have to take that into consideration as well, too.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
I just want to ask a general question, and any of the 3 gentlemen that can answer this question. What would, is it even possible for us to rectify all of these problems in the time we need to in order to keep the kids in that school? Is it too cumbersome? Is it too involved? What would we have to do immediately in order to make the school safe for those kids? Or is there anything we can do at this point?
In regard to the fire code, number 1 would be to acquire a secondary exit from the end of that corridor.
Yes.
That would require coordination with potentially the architect, the contractors involved. I don't know to what extent things would have to be done in order to accomplish that secondary exit. That would require coordination with them. Ensuring that the fire alarm is up to par, that it is functioning, and that it can be heard. That may require the installation of additional horn strobe devices to make it work and be heard in those classrooms. Again, all those things involve coordination amongst several entities and individuals. Timeline, I just don't know how long that might take.
I appreciate your response. You know, I know we're working on, Eric may be able to help me with this, but I know they're due to finish the roof, the entire roof, sometime at the end of October. Is that correct, Eric?
That is correct.
Okay, so even when that is done, we may still have some water inside underneath that roof that could seep down into our kitchen. I mean, it may be there for a while. It may take a while for that to dry up. So, you know, that part, maybe over time would fix itself, but that's still time, and that's still, you know, maybe quite a bit of time. The fire marshal, as far as the fixing the fire system, yeah, that would be additional money we'd have to spend, which all of these things will be done as the building is being completed. I mean, all these things are going to be new installations as it is anyway. The part that probably captures my attention the most is the corridor issue and the one exit the kids have. I don't see, and again, I'm going to ask Eric, I don't know if there's anything at all the construction company can do to rectify that situation with an active construction site going on outside.
I mean, at the end of that corridor to where we'd have to have a secondary exit, you're dumping kids right out into an active construction zone.
That's my point.
I mean, I'm not speaking for the contractor, they might be able to come up with a way to route the kids out, but it would be cumbersome, I think, for their point of view.
Well, and like I said earlier, that's all going to be rectified as the building is being completed.
Correct.
It just looks like we kind of run into a situation where we've got, for no pun intended, the perfect storm of all these things coming together at one time. And I do feel like that at this point I need to mention something that actually occurred a month ago, or approximately a month ago. If you'll recall, back when it was dry as a bone, you know, we were getting kind of conflicting reports as to how severe the water problem was at Richwood, and if we was going to have to move those kids at some point or not. And I was getting conflicting stories, but anyway, I felt like it was my duty to at least check into what we would do if we ran out of water in Richwood. And at that point, I sat down with my staff and I said, where could we relocate those kids? Well, the first suggestion came from one of our board members was, could we possibly move those kids to the Armory? And I called the State Department of Education, the State Superintendent of Schools, and the Facilities Director, and they said that would not be possible. You cannot put kids, unless it's an absolute emergency situation where it's just a place is wiped out, you can't put them into an Armory. You have to put them into another school. Well, the nearest school, elementary school that those kids could possibly go to, because of numbers, was Panther Creek. And so we met with Regina Thomas, who's the principal up there, and gave her, and talked to Heather Sigley, our principal at Cherry River, and said, you know, if this happens, and this was before all of this water problem and all of this fire marshal problem even came to fruition. This was about an absence of water. So I was principal at Panther Creek for 9 years, and when I was there, we had close to 400 kids. Well, when you combine the number of students at Cherry River and the current number of students at Panther Creek, it does not approach 400. It's in the 300s, but not 400. So, you know, you could fit those kids into that building. Would it be optimal? Of course not. Is it what we want to do? Of course not. But in an emergency situation, we could locate them there. I chose, this is me, I chose not to alarm the staffs of both schools, the communities of both schools, if I didn't have to. And so we wanted to see how this went. Well, the water situation kind of rectified itself. We got some rain. The water table was not the issue that it was previously. And then this comes up. So we did have a preliminary plan, which Chris will put on our screen here in a little bit, on how we relocate those kids from Cherry River to Panther Creek. And the staffs were not informed about it. The principals were, but the staffs were not, for the reasons I gave previously. We would be able to, if we have to do this, we could relocate those kids to Panther Creek. Now, that could be a temporary fix. Sounds to me like it's not a temporary fix to a long-term problem we've got. It looks to me like we're going to have to make a decision that's going to be longer term than just temporary. But that's not my decision to make, it's just my recommendation to make. But we did, people will see this and say, well, they already had this figured out. Well, we did, but it was because of the absence of water, not because of the leaks of the fire marshal cabins. But we do have a plan in place that we can make this happen fairly quickly with limited intrusion and loss of student instruction. So I'll be glad to try to answer any questions anybody has, the board has, comments they want to make, recommendations they want to make. But, you know, in all transparency, I have been discussing some of this with the board as this has exacerbated itself. I had to talk to them and say, what if we have to do this? I don't want them blindsided. The part about this I hate the most is the communities are blindsided by this because I couldn't share this before today because I did not know what the reports are going to be. I didn't want to tell the communities we're going to do this and then find out that it was something we could fix. It doesn't sound to me like that it's practical to say we can fix this in 3 or 4 days. It doesn't look possible to me, but that's why I've got these board members with me and we've got our representatives from our different agencies giving their opinions. So that's what I'll say for now, and I'll let the board continue the discussion.
Terrence, would it be fair to say if you did move the school to Panther Creek, you're really not you still will have a Cherry River Elementary with inside Panther Creek?
Cherry River would have their own phone line, they would have their own administrative offices, and they would have their own classrooms for the most part. We have one area of our building, and I think it's the library that used to be used as a library. You would have to contain like 34 students, but you would have more than one teacher in that classroom. You would have to divide those kids up and have to use some kind of a divider or something to separate those students. But for the most part, those kids, the Cherry River kids, going to go into their own classrooms, their own instructors, and they would have their own administration. They'd simply be located in Panther Creek right now until we get all these problems fixed or the building completed. So to answer your question is that they would have their own identity still. And it would take us a few days to get this taken care of. And we've got a preliminary plan on how this might look. But that's something the board will have to hear and decide for themselves. But thank you for the question.
Has Mr. Stump worked on, he was back there, but he stepped out, I guess.
Yeah, you got no issue.
Is he ready for buses?
I did talk to him about this yesterday, and he said that he thought that there would be some changes had to be made, but he thought that they were very workable. But bus drivers have to understand that if we have to make an emergency plan, they have to go along with the plan. You know, they're employees, and it may extend some of their runs, it may shorten some of them, I don't know. When he come back, he can answer that question for you. But he is aware of the situation and says that he does think we can make this work. Now I want to ask Sherry, tell us, Sherry, what you've been doing in the interim with the problem we've had. And if you'll come up front, I know you love doing that, and I'll hear about it later. But I would like you to come up so that the TV cameras can get you and hear you properly. You hear us so well.
I wanted to clarify some things that Mr. Taylor had said. I was told of the problem on Friday, two Fridays ago. And so then on Monday, we had a board meeting. I went over, talked to the cafeteria manager Friday afternoon. I contacted you on Monday. On Monday, I went over there. And then we had the board meeting that evening. Alerted the board to what was the problem. I contacted Mr. Taylor that evening. I emailed him and then called him the next morning. It was not leaking into the dishwasher. I wanted to make sure I clarified that at that time. Right. On Tuesday, when he went over there, it was not leaking into the dishwasher at that time either. Wednesday morning, the cafeteria manager, she had contacted me and said, Sherry, it's in the dishwasher. And I told her right then, use the 3-bowl sink, shut that dishwasher down, and it was also leaking in the light fixture. I said, turn the power off and, turn the lights off in there, do not go in there. So I don't want anyone to think that we fed those kids on dirty trays that went through that, because we didn't. We immediately went to disposable trays, because I require them to keep disposable trays on hand for situations like this, or if we'd have no power or water to ever, to use the dishwasher. So I did want to clarify that. I didn't want anyone to think that at any time we fed our kids on dirty trays or with dirty cooking equipment. So
That definitely could have occurred. if we
it could
didn't.
have occurred,
Right.
but the cafeteria manager at Cherry River is very diligent about her job, and I mean, she loves those kids, and
Yeah,
that's
I
what
went to
she's
see,
there for.
I went to see her, and she was showing me around the kitchen. And she was really concerned at that time.
She is, those are her babies.
I get it.
And that's, which is how it should be, that's how all my kitchen staff is. So I did want to clarify that, so,
Okay. Thank you, Sherry, I appreciate it. I won't bother you anymore.
thank you.
Well, thank you. Alan, while you were out, the question came up about transportation. Have you looked into what kind of transportation we'd have to provide if we move those students to Panther Creek?
Sure. We have looked at, we have taken a little bit of time to look at busing and possible, how we would reroute. I don't think it would be a huge challenge. I don't think it would really displace very many of our bus drivers as far as changing their routes too much. A lot of them would kind of stay the same. The only issue that we've ran into, and I think it's something that kind of have a game plan for, is a lot of the kids we're picking up in the Ridgewood area, that downtown area. They're going into Craigsville to go to the middle school and high school, and so the only thing we'd have to figure out is those buses pick up elementary and middle school and high school, and so we'll have to have a game plan on getting the elementary to Panther Creek, and then the middle school and high school over to their school. But I think we have a pretty good idea on how we'll do that, and it really shouldn't be too big of a deal, and it really shouldn't put them over their recommended travel times. So I think we'll be okay.
Now, let me ask Heather a question. She's back here, she's hiding. Do you have a lot of parents that pick up their kids after school at your school?
When we have after school, not a ton, probably about 15-ish, 15 to 20.
Okay.
Because there's a large number that stay for after school.
And would the students be able to get to Panther Creek in time to follow the Panther Creek schedule? Do you think they would be on time, do you think?
Yes, I believe they would, yeah.
Okay.
We may have, and that would be something, in whatever time we have between now and if we were to start this, we would probably have our drivers kind of do a trial run, just to make sure we get some of the wrinkles worked out and make sure. I would say some of the pickup times would change. And that would be something we would try to, like I said, try to iron out and let parents know. But yeah, I would expect maybe the first week or so for the times to kind of vary as we get into a routine.
All right, thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
How about Sherry, has anybody looked at cafeteria? The Cherry River kids would eat with the Panther Creek kids. I'm assuming you'd run that. Have you all worked that out or thought about it?
We have not, but we can. I mean, it should not be a problem. Have you?
I think I need one cafeteria table from Cherry River and I'll be fine.
I'm a lunch guy, so. Yeah, Ms. Sigley, do you want to say anything?
No.
Oh, come on. I know you have an opinion.
There's just going to be a lot of mixed emotions.
Sure. We know that.
He is up here too.
Chip, can I ask some questions?
Sure.
you're looking at the end of October, which is only a couple of weeks, and the roof situation will be fixed. So, and then you've got a construction company on site that could cut a door in a day at the end of that hallway. So, something to consider when you're thinking about all this, would you be better off to just maybe shut the school down for a couple of weeks, fix all these things, and not move all these people around and start, you know what I'm saying? That's just another thing I'm thinking is, would you not be better off to just look at SQP and give them a change order to immediately put their crews in and fix this stuff? And, you know, like where they open the door, like Eric said, into a construction zone, you know, I work on construction zones every day, sites, and there could always be a little temporary corridor made, you know, out to the safe place or whatever. So maybe to consider a whole different thing is maybe just let the kids do on the iPads for 2 weeks or whatever like that, and that's gonna fix most of these problems.
Well, that part, that, you know, that section they're in gets a total remake, you know, all new wiring, all new ceiling. So it just, the only concern I have is what's between the old roof and the ceiling right now. You know, you don't know how much water's up there laying around.
But you could core drill that too. I mean, that's what we did at the post office when we were doing 911. We had roof situations like that. We just had the roofer put a couple core drills down to measure the moisture and things that were in there. And I know it's hard with the construction going on, and it may be better off to actually get them out of there. But I'm just saying, if you got a temporary fix, could be done in a week or two.
Well, I was up there, there was a day it was raining, and I went up there to see the construction. I hadn't stopped by because I didn't want to slow any construction down. So Mr. Green and I and Mr. Moose, we went through with Eric on the new site and toured it. But that day we were in there, it was raining, and they had lost some ceiling tiles in different parts of the building. And the thing that concerns me, and I don't know if this would drive me crazy, once you get in there, you don't see out. There's no windows. So that's got to, I mean, when I taught, my desk was beside the window. Not that I sat at my desk all the time, but, you know, I like to be able to see outside. I would think that would be an issue too, right now. I mean, it's totally just, there's no window, all the windows are blocked off. And those kids don't even know if it's raining or, well, they know if it's raining, but they don't know if it's, you know, snowing or whatever, you know, but I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it.
If you cut out a door, like Craig was suggesting, wouldn't that go right out into the construction site though, Eric?
Yes, sir.
And the other thing is...
Roy Moose?
Yes,
Can you
sir.
hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think it is absolutely imperative that we take action as quickly as possible. We know that not all of those different problems cannot be taken care of in a short amount of time. And we're endangering our children when we leave them in this situation from several different points of view. So I don't think we have any choice. I don't think there's any decision to be made. We've got to make a move.
Craig mentioned doing a change order. Now, with this project, these FEMA projects, change orders and all this, those just aren't something you just write out and change the contractors and say, we want you to switch over here. Eric is much more well-versed in that process than I am. But the other thing about it, even if you do a change order and you try to get these things taken care of, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's just going to delay the completion of this project even more if we do that. Is that right? Am I right or wrong?
In my opinion, you're just throwing good money after bad. I mean, if you go in there and do a temporary fix on something that's going to be permanently fixed later down the road in the construction phase I mean, you've already mentioned you have room in Panther Creek in my opinion, you're just throwing good money after bad on a temporary fix. And a change order, we've been working on 13 of them for a year and a half now. I mean, they don't go through the process quite as quickly as it was.
It affects their schedule too.
A little bit, yes, it
And
would.
when they're gonna finish, you know,
Correct.
they come up with an agreement when they're gonna be finished now. And I don't want, I mean, I think the suggestion has validity to it, but it's a very complex project. And, you know, we're wanting, you know, one of the first things I was told when I took this job was, get those kids out of the pods as quick as you can. You know, this may possibly, if we do move those kids to Panther Creek, depending on how long you move them out, it may actually speed up our completion date, which is, you know, I know they're not gonna guarantee anything like that, but it couldn't slow it down any. It had to have to speed it up some.
And with a temporary corridor like Craig was talking about, I don't know if SQP would take on that liability of letting students cross across their construction.
Well, all that has to be negotiated anyway, with how
Right.
much they would charge us to do this.
Correct.
Well, and the kids wouldn't be able to egress directly into the construction zone. There would have to be some form of egress path constructed that would allow them to exit the corridor out the building and then safely get to a public way. They wouldn't be able to exit straight into that construction zone.
Gary, you have any thoughts?
Not at all. I was gonna ask a question about the speeding up the schedule. Can you
Yeah.
answer that?
Well, one of the issues too is all the dust and the stuff that's getting into the cafeteria. And even if you take care of some of these other issues, I mean, that, you're gonna have construction going on and the air system and all that. So, I don't know.
I'd like to make a comment. What I've learned quite a bit. Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
It might be a problem moving to Panther Creek. We'll have many more problems if we stay there. I don't think there's any issue. I understand that you've already spoken with Panther and they're okay with that. And
Craig, to answer what I have learned, I've learned a lot. And I was also in the construction business, and you're always looking for ways to do things, and most people look at it from their standpoint. This is definitely not a perfect solution. When it was brought to us about the water table, I had a chance to digest and stuff. But one thing I have found about the education system, and it's a push statewide, and I do believe we've got to keep these kids in school. The COVID showed us that working remotely and stuff, and I know it'd be a temporary thing, and you think, well, it's just 2 weeks to do this, or 3 weeks while it goes on. These kids need to be in class. There's a direct correlation of the testing scores with absenteeism. And it's a big push statewide, it's a big push with this county. And is this gonna be perfect? No, but I think you have to start with the premises, how do we keep the kids in school? How do we keep the teachers, give them the tools to work with to educate the kids? That's what I've learned for whatever that's worth.
And I'm sure that, you know, I know a lot of those teachers at Panther Creek, and I know that they will welcome those kids and treat them like their own up there. But we have to understand another thing too, is this, I don't know what the community of Panther Creek is going to feel like when this decision is made, but this situation could very easily be reversed. You could have the same kind of issues at another school that you may have to move them to another location. So I think that they will see the big picture in this and welcome those kids and make it the best learning environment they possibly can. Like I said, I was there 9 years and not, the same people aren't there as they were when I was there, but that community is a very welcoming and nurturing community, and I think they will adjust to this.
So, Regina, do you feel like Panther Creek needs closed for a day or two to accommodate this, or do you think you all can continue school?
I think we will continue school. I do need hands though, I just need hands to move.
Yeah, I talked to Regina yesterday, and she was very adamant about she wanted to keep those kids in classes, and she said, we'll just shut the doors while they're moving stuff in and out, and we need a little bit of help with moving some stuff from around in her building, maybe somewhere to store some of that. We kind of had that discussion yesterday, but obviously, my recommendation would be to, at the end of the day today, is not to bring those kids back to to Cherry River tomorrow, and then we need to have the discussion on when we feel like we can get those kids moved into Panther Creek.
Did you say Cherry River?
If I meant to say Cherry River, the Cherry River would not come back to school tomorrow. The teachers need time to get their stuff together to move out of there. And so they're going to need a couple of days to do that. I know teachers are pack rats. They got everything on earth that they want to take with them. What the board's going to have to decide is the extent of this move. Are we going to say we're going to move until and meet later on this? Or are we going to say, you know, that's something you guys have to discuss. I have my feelings on it, but I think that's a discussion we need to take place. But we do need to close down Cherry River, I think, at the end of the day today. That would give the teachers time to get some things together to send to their kids, to have them communicate with their staffs, let them know. And I know this is going to be a shock to a lot of people. I know that. I mean, I'm going through a lot of shocks this week.
It's a shock, but when we were looking at the water situation, they were calling me left and right. I heard y'all were closing us, and and I think Mr. Green got some calls. So it's not going to be a total shock to some of them, but my feeling is that if we move them, that we move them until at least the end of this school year. That's my feeling. I don't think we need to move them back, and if we move them. Go ahead, Mr. Moose.
I agree.
Well, I think there'll be other problems arise in construction stuff. There's always things you don't know about that will happen right now.
I would just, I don't know, we have a lot of options. Obviously, Craig's presenting one that's a good one, actually. I'm just worried, I would be worried about time. Going through our architects to go to the construction people. I'm on a construction call every week on construction in both schools. And I have some experience in the construction business. And I would just be worried that we could get all the departments, the fire department, the health department, everything, the architects, not even worried about the money part of it as much as the time. And I just don't think we have time to keep these kids out of classrooms.
Chris, could you put on the screen the layout of the building and what it would look like?
Hey, Chip, I have a question. As far as the roof on the elementary school now, how bad or how severe are we talking? Because here I am pre-planning, okay, and we're almost in the middle of October. Richwood, guys, is one of our heavy populated areas that gets heavy snow. And I'm looking at that aspect too, because we get a couple inches of snow laying up on that roof, especially on a weekend. Where's all the water going? Right down inside. So, and that's something we gotta consider, because we could get snow in a couple weeks.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so we have to take that in consideration too. You know, I'm not trying to be pound, different options, but when we're pre-planning this to do what's best for everybody, we have to also consider that. And I don't know how bad that roof is, I haven't been up there and.
It probably needed to be replaced 20 years ago.
Okay. So that's something we have to consider too.
But I think the entire roof will be replaced by the end of this
Correct.
month. We'll have a whole new roof on that whole facility. So
That's good.
it is.
Now, where you got some problems now with, like, you guys were worried about water trapped in there. Is there anything in there, Eric, that even when they put the new roof on, is the base going to have to be replaced in some ways? You're going to have some inspections on that?
The whole existing Cherry River will be gutted and revented.
So the new foam and everything's going down?
New foam, new everything.
It'll go back down to the steel
Inspection of
rafters?
roof trusses,
Yeah.
that whole thing will be renovated.
They had a bunch of the decking and everything else rust out on
Yeah.
some of the.
Decking's pretty bad in some spots. But yes, the whole Cherry River interior and exterior gets renovated during
And there is a.
phase 3.
And there is a concern, I think, Eric, I think you mentioned before, that when they get in there, they don't know as far as those asbestos situations and stuff. So you don't know the timing of being able to do that.
Most of it's been abated, according to the reports that the county gets, and then we did a little bit of abatement early when we started. But there's no asbestos, friable asbestos left in that building.
Chris, would you come up to the screen and point out where those Cherokee kids would be housed so that the public that's watching can see this on the television? Use the one that the young lady up here can see better.
Okay. We go this one.
Great, thank you.
So we went through, counted students, counted rooms, and the configuration we have this year, we've got a couple small classes at Panther Creek. So it'll be easier to start in the back of the school, and then I'll have to go back there and scroll down. But third grade, there's only one fourth grade this year at Panther Creek, so they had a whole empty classroom. There's only one fifth grade this year at Panther Creek, which typically they have two. So in that wing, Cherry River has 22 third graders, and they have a whole classroom to themselves. So the school is divided up, just to get a little bit of background on the school. This whole wing is grade 3 through 5, and this whole wing is pre-K through 2. So one's the blue wing, we call it, one's the green wing. So these students are on the same grade level in the same wing as they are. So third grade had 22 students, they'll be in here. Fifth grade had 25 students, another empty classroom. They had 24 students, normal size classroom for fifth grade, they'll go there. Moving on down, the Cherry River's fourth grade is the largest, but there is a large area in the center of the school that's the library / media center that most classrooms have their own little library, so it really wasn't used that much. But there are 34 students in the fourth grade in Cherry River. That area is large enough for those two teachers to co-teach, have the same area. So all those students will fit in that area. You'll have two teachers in there so they can co-teach. There was two areas that was, and Ms. Thomas will know more of, because I'm trying to remember what occupied some of those places. But there was a computer lab that was in that area. I don't know if you remember, Mr. Beam, if it was there. But that computer lab, there was an original wall down the middle of that was at some point removed, and it's been returned. So now there's two separate classrooms in there that I think OTPT maybe used some intervention used those. But there's different places in the school that's smaller that would facilitate those. So first grade has 17 students that would go in there, second grade has 18 students, and they're two separate areas, so they have their own classroom again. Title I, there's a office that is occupied by our TAC, so which is not a big deal. We can relocate her to have Cherry River Intervention, or Title I, to have their own space. There's a OTPT was using a whole, this was an old pre-K classroom that moved to a different area. They moved over here. So Cherry River Pre-K has 16 students, and they'll have a whole classroom of their own. Then coming down that side of that hallway, the kindergarten class. And there's a couple ways to do this, and I think that's the board's privy. They could have their own class. There's, what was there, 29? You have 29 kindergarten kids? So right now, they had 9 students in one classroom and then the rest in the other. So the Panther Creek students could easily be combined, having 2 teachers and an aide to co-teach. Or you could co-teach, which I don't think that's the wishes of Mr. Bean, but if we did that, then the Cherry River Kindergarten would have their own classroom of 21 students. The Cherry River Special Ed could be moved into the teacher lounge that's currently there. There is a sensory room that is currently there that could be used as the Cherry River self-contained. And so we'll move down to the office area. Here's Ms. Thomas's office. There's a copy area. When you enter the building, let me scroll this down a little bit. That's what I should be done scrolling. So this is the main entrance of the school. This is the secretary's office of Panther Creek. Here's Ms. Thomas's principal's office. Say if a Cherry River parent entered the school, then they would be in this room right here. You would have the principal and the secretary, so they would have their own admin area. I think that's the interventionist. Is that your interventionist that would go in the conference room? So it would still, whenever intervention wasn't there, it would still be room for either principal to have meetings with parents and things of that nature. We don't currently have a plan for the cafeteria, so it is open when it's not lunch for small group instruction or whatever's needed for pullouts. For all that, then if you go through the cafeteria, down by the gym, there's an office with a restroom off of it, and Cherry River PT, OT, and speech could use that office. And Save the Children could use, Cherry River Save the Children could use the office that she currently has, Community in Schools. Ms. Thomas has found another place for her to go, so that Cherry River could use that space. And there is a closet off the gymnasium that currently just has chairs and just things they use for the gym. Ms. Thomas has designated that for just a landing area, because the social workers, the counselors, Community in Schools, and the TAC, they don't typically have office time. They just need a place to land, and then they're out in the school in classrooms. So she's designated that area. And she's counted. That was one of the questions that I had. I said, do you have cafeteria space? And she said, absolutely. She would check. So she counted everybody. She has 3 lunches, so that helps. And she only needed 1 cafeteria table to facilitate. I think she's talking about dividing the playground so that they would still have their spots on the playground and the kids wouldn't have to intermingle, so that Cherry River teachers would only be responsible for Cherry River students and Panther Creek teachers would only be responsible for their students. And so they would just divide that playground up and they would alternate and everybody would have equal opportunity, but you'd only be responsible for your own students.
They would share the gym, they could divide the gym up.
Yeah, they could easily divide the gym. That's a very large gym. And I think sometimes collaboration is good, so if they decided to co-teach for gym, they could do that. If they decided to divide that in half, that would be fine. That would be the principal's and the teacher's preference as far as I think that would go. That would work best that way. But yeah, there's, so you don't have there's not any mingling of the schools if they.
And I really want to give kudos to Gina for working with us and being so supportive of this idea and so flexible of what she's going to do. That's very commendable. I appreciate it.
The building will be tight, but we can make it work.
We get it, and it will be. But at least they'll be safe.
Exactly.
Thanks, Chris.
As far as fire drills and that stuff, you all have to work all that out for where they're going to be, and
I have a list of things that I need
you've already.
to happen. The pages.
She's on it.
Would we still have after school as normal?
That was a question I was gonna bring up, to Alan. Is after school gonna be an issue as far as busing?
It shouldn't be.
Okay.
I had another question, I don't know if this is, would we be able to have some sort of contract or something with the Armory where we could do our parent events still in Ridgewood? I have a lot of families that won't, I have a lot of families that don't rides. It would just be nice to be able to have some events still.
Yeah, Heather, there's no reason you can't continue doing those things.
Well,
I don't see.
she's not, you're not doing them there now, right?
At Cherry River?
No, at the Armory.
No, but I mean, the parents were coming into our building.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, we have events planned for the next few
We can
weeks
work
for
out
parents.
something.
coming.
There's no reason we can't do
Well,
that.
I mean, it may cost a little bit, but
Yeah. That's not right to do that. So they still do things in their community.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the transportation is a problem for some of those folks, as is other places.
Probably just need to work out an MOU with them to get approval from the board. But that'd be a formality, I'm sure. Yeah.
Can I ask a question, follow up with hers? You talking about after school events or like during the day?
After school events, like we had a Halloween, read aloud or whatever event planned from 26.
Mr. Moose has to go 45, remember?
Yeah, we better. Mr. Moose, we're aware of your time constraint, so. Anybody, anything else? So the thing that we have to consider in our motion is, if we're going to make a motion, if somebody makes a motion, they'll have to include how long we're going to close Cherry River to get those moved to Panther Creek.
When that would take place.
Chip, can I say something?
Sure.
If I would have hands today in the building, I could move all of my areas and be ready for Cherry River to move stuff tomorrow. Like iPads, instructional materials, anything that teachers would tag, they could start moving from Cherry River tomorrow.
Well, I think Alan's gonna make this a priority, and maintenance is gonna, I mean, you're gonna drop everything else, correct? I mean, if we do this.
Of course.
That's what you're asking.
Sort of. I mean, how many?
They have to do like desks, all of that sorts of things, or just like materials?
Just materials.
So we
They
don't
need a
need
few
that.
desks.
What about special ed?
You'll need your special ed materials.
So we really wouldn't be moving furniture or anything.
Not much.
Special ed.
Do you have a couple guys that can go to Panther Creek this afternoon and help facilitate to get ready for tomorrow?
This afternoon?
Yes.
Possible.
No, but to help her get the building ready.
We may be able to put some vacancies in and get some substitute custodians.
We can try to put together a group.
And then how long, Heather, how long do you feel your staff needs? And I know this is a lot, but how long do we need to close Cherry River? And maybe, I don't know if it's possible to give them some assignments for a couple days while they're off. It's not the best situation,
I
but
mean,
it's
we
better than
have
nothing.
snow packets already made that we send, we don't send our iPads home. But we have like paper packets made for every grade already, that they could complete. There's a lot in that school, so, I mean, I don't know. Like our STEM lab is packed, our Title I room is packed. I don't know if we would need our gym, gym equipment, that sort of thing. I just don't know what we necessarily need to bring and not bring. And like, if it stays there, is it gone forever, or?
No,
No, it can't stay there.
No, I mean, like, my school, like, if we leave things at Cherry River.
I think what you and Regina have to do after we meet, after we make a decision, is to get together and maybe you even stop over there and
Can you use volunteers for that, moving stuff?
Not really with kids in the building unless you're approved.
Unless you're approved, you have to be on the approved list to be in the building.
Okay, I was just gonna say, I'd volunteer myself, services and my truck.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerry.
I was gonna say, at Cherry River loading things up, if students weren't there and it weren't
Right.
really involving students, they
Right.
could certainly volunteer, I would think.
But to get into Panther Creek,
We have, vehicle-wise, we're good. We have 3 trucks, 3 good-sized trucks that we can, we'll have more than enough space to haul.
and you'll have to move the cafeteria, once again, the food. You have to move the frozen stuff and all that. You have to work all that out. And Sherry, I mean, I guess your head cooks would still be responsible for their own, like, how would that work? Have y'all worked that out?
I had talked to one of them last night. This is Bobby, she's from Cherry River. But I had talked to Tammy at Panther Creek last night, and they'll work together, they'll be fine.
Oh, I know
kitchens will
both
be
of them.
fine.
They'll be fine.
I'll have Tammy order at Panther Creek all the food that she will need. And then when I code it out, I'll just code it, split it between each
So
school.
you've
But
got
it'll be
that-
fine, we'll be fine.
You've got that worked out?
Yeah, I've got it worked out.
Okay.
It's practical for them to start the school there.
Are you ready for a motion to that effect?
Almost. Heather, do you think 3 days would give you all time to move?
If we had a lot of help.
In fact, I'm really thinking 4 days. I'm counting tomorrow to kind of pack up, and then 3 days next week to get everything over there.
The Thursday is a PL day, so there's no kids on Thursday anyway.
And Friday's a regular day.
Yeah.
And so Friday, that'd be that'd be kind of like a trial day. Hopefully it works. And
Practice, move up day. That's move up day. That used to be for the fifth grade.
so basically, if we sent your kids home tomorrow through next Friday, do you think we can make this happen?
Yes. I mean, this is just kind of a request. Is there anyone that can come and talk to staff about what's happening, what's going on? Because I honestly feel kind of blindsided. Like, I've never seen this.
This is the first I've seen this to this morning.
Maybe up there to see the Terrence?
I can't see, but Kelly would probably talk to them this evening, can't she?
I can go this afternoon.
Yeah, she can go this afternoon.
Regina, can you take care of Panther Creek, or do you need somebody to, I mean, you think?
No, I'll take care of Panther Creek.
I have a question.
Yes.
It sounds like you guys are probably going to get a lot of calls at your schools. Do you have extra support staff to help potentially field some of those calls? This is me speaking as a parent, not as a health officer. I just think it's going to be, you're going to be orchestrating, trying to get things ready to go and moved. At the same time, being inundated with calls to the public. Is there a way for them to divert calls and questions to a central space? Or is there like kind of a communications plan moving forward?
I think it's a great point. I think the first step in the communication, if this plan is approved, is Terrence has done a pretty good job in the past on these things, putting some out on social media. But in that post, you need to be able to ask for their patients and direct them to a certain.
Now, are you talking about
questions?
Calls to this office or calls to the schools?
I think it would be best from a public information standpoint to have calls for whatever reason whether it would be Panther Creek parents, Cherry Creek parents, concerned people in the community, to have one location for calls to go to and to be dealt with, versus having each individual entity trying to deal with those calls and all the while trying to move students in schools and buses and all the other things.
Yeah, we could probably designate one of our extension numbers here. When we put it out on Facebook, if you have questions about this, contact 872-3611 extension, blah, 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 and dedicate one of our people to try to take those calls. I mean, that will probably be overrun too.
Right.
You know, we may have to designate a couple extension numbers to contact. But that's a good point. I mean, the good thing about this is if we do not send those students to Panther Creek till next Friday, we're going to have a week to get all this figured out. So I'm sure we have all the calls within the first 24 hours, but we'll get, I think that's a good point.
Mr. Moose, you're crowded on time, so we're going to, do we have a motion on this matter?
Make a motion that we move the Cherry River students to Panther Elementary for the duration of the school year.
Beginning when?
Beginning as soon as possible.
Well, we need is Friday, October 18th, is that a good date for you, sir?
Yes.
18th through Thursday. Friday, today's the 10th. Okay, so did you get the motion, Ms. White? Do we have a second on his motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Berry. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
And that was understood as students would not, Cherry River students would not be present until they report to Panther Creek on the 18th.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Mr. Green makes a motion to adjourn, seconded by Mr. Ferguson. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
At 9:47.